All right. Thanks so much for jumping on this webinar. I'm going to fly through a lot of information quickly, but my cell phone number is here as well as my email address. If you have questions, feel free to shoot me a text, shoot me an email. I'm happy to connect you with resources, chat through what we discussed on this webinar. My name is Melissa Sager. I am in the county attorney's office here in Adams County, and I was hired to serve the new health department. And this presentation is right up my alley with financial wellness. Jesse Cutting was nice enough to host this webinar so we could chat through student loans. Super important, lots of things changing. At this point, too much information out there. And so I'm here to walk through a lot of it, and then again, happy to take your questions in follow-up or throw them in the chat as we go along. We'll have some time at the end to answer questions. Disclaimer, I am a lawyer, but I am not your lawyer. This is not legal advice. It is definitely not financial advice. I have done everything I can to verify the information in this presentation and keep it as accurate as possible, but every situation is different. Your situation is very specific, and you should always double check information. I'll throw links into the chat. All of this was copy and pasted from federal resources. And of course, if you have questions specific to your situation, you should touch base with a lawyer or a financial advisor to chat those through. You can also check out the resources that lots of questions answered throughout. This is the agenda, just wanting to chat through all of these different changes, deadlines coming, and I'm going to jump right in. Whoops. This presentation is on federal student loans. Private student loans are different. Federal student loans are governed by the federal government. That means the federal government gets to set all of those different rules. It means they get to have things like income-based repayment plans so that your payments are based off of your income. They can do things like pause student loan payments during the COVID-19 pandemic, which we know they did. Private banks hold those private student loans, and they're just not subject to the same rules, requirements, and most important, flexibility. So if you have private student loans, we're not going to talk about those today, strictly federal student loans. I did a couple screenshots. If you have not created a studentaid.gov account, do that right now. Do it while we're chatting. Studentaid.gov, super simple. It's going to connect you with all of the information you need to work yourself through these different programs and flexibilities. There are fantastic FAQs, resources, loan simulators, payment simulators to get through, to estimate your payments, to see what plans are best for you. You can see I blacked out my loan balance. Don't want you guys to see that. But you can see some of the highlights here. Your total balance of your federal student loans, they're all going to be here. I'll show you a bit more information on the next page. Your servicer is here. So many of your questions, and we'll talk about public service loan forgiveness in this presentation, but you can connect with your servicer about loan forgiveness. When your next payment is due, you can see here that payment pause expiring in January. So that's when my payment will be due, January of next year. These quick links and My Aid, that's the next page I have here. Little screenshot of My Aid. You can see I had 13 loans. These were all consolidated. I consolidated mine. And so they're all consolidated into one, but it will tell you the whole history. What loans did I have from what my servicer has changed? You can see here 3 times. It goes through all of that historical information. When you consolidated, if you consolidated, you can download a PDF so you have that all in one document. And then I highlighted here grants. This is important. Lots of folks have questions. New forgiveness, and the application was posted. I'm going to put the link in just a minute to forgive $10,000 of your federal student loans if you make less than $125,000 annually. I think it's $250 for a couple, a married couple. But if you received a Pell Grant, those are the grants that went to the neediest students, the lowest income. You are eligible for $20,000 in forgiveness. I'm going to touch on that more, but I've had lots of folks, did I get a Pell Grant? I don't know. That will be right here under this tab. So not only all your loans and all that historical information, but you'll get that grants tab and you'll know right away if you've received a Pell Grant. It'll be under that grant. Work with your kiddo if you're here on behalf of your kiddo and student loans. That forgiveness is open to current students who have loans. So you just want to make sure you're looking into that. Also good for Parent Plus loans. More to come on the forgiveness. Oh, I talked about some of this. You can see the aid breakdown. So if you download that document or click for the breakdown, you can see your interest rates, your totals, the repayment plan that you're on. You can see here I'm on the pay as you earn plan. You can see all the different loans, that historical information, your loan servicer. You can see my old loan servicers here. Oh, and it links you right to your servicer too, to their website. Student loan repayment options, throwing this in here, you can see there are a lot of different ones. The federal government is talking about adjusting these. You can jump on to that studentaid.gov and see all the different explanations, how these different plans differ, how they're calculated. You can use that loan simulator to estimate the payments. You put your loans in, or it'll auto-populate for you when you create your account. It'll auto-populate all your federal student loans, and you can see what your payment will be under each of those different plans. They'll ask you what your goals are, and that's another important factor when we talk about everyone being different, what your goals are, what programs are open to you, what makes the most sense. It's really specific to your situation, but the tools they have on this website are fantastic. I'm going to put a whole bunch of links, but if you're on that studentaid.gov website now, if you haven't created your account, do it while we chat. You can check this out. It's so easy to find all of this information. So the COVID-19 pause, hopefully you know about this. There was a pause starting March 13th, 2020 when COVID-19 started. And what the federal government said is they said, we're going to pause these student loans. We're going to cancel interest. So during this pause, no interest is going to accrue. The other important thing they did, and we'll talk about public service loan forgiveness in just a few slides, is they said these $0 payments count toward the 120 payments you have to make to qualify for public service loan forgiveness. For me personally, this was huge. The federal government never does that. It doesn't matter if you are serving in the military abroad and you pause your student loans, those don't count. They're talking about changing that, but they did count for this pause. It was huge. And I have a little information here about refunds you can access. If you voluntarily made payments during this time, and there's a lot of different factors that go into whether or not a refund is right for you, you can get that money refunded. And I have quite a bit more information about that. So I'm going to keep moving. When the repayments begin, you will get you will be contacted. You'll be contacted by the Department of Education. You'll be contacted, oh, somebody's unmuted, just gonna mute you. You'll be contacted by the Department of Education, by your loan servicer. We know that payments are coming back in January. We'll see those communications start coming. I will go back a slide though, just because this is such a ripe time for scams. When things change, when people aren't sure what's going on, when all these different programs are coming out, and when people are nervous. I was so nervous about not making payments for public service because it was so important to me. It's ripe for scams. I'm sure you've gotten the mailers. Consolidate your loans into a private loan. Make your payment here. People are getting emails. you will be contacted by the Department of Education or your loan servicer, and you can always, and it's the safest to seek out that information on these trusted websites. And if you have questions, if you're like, is this a scam? Is this the truth? Reach out. I'm happy to look it up with you to direct you to the right website, but just lots of scams going on in the midst of uncertainty. You want to make sure your information is updated on your loan servicer page. Those auto debits that you were signed up for, I know I was, you'll have to update that information. Your loan servicer may request that. You can proactively go do that. Reminder that those private loans not eligible for that pause. So you should have been making payments on your private loans this whole time. Refunds, I won't rehash all of this, but just noting that if you voluntarily made payments during the pause, you can get every single one of those payments refunded. And I have seen people get the refunds, so they are there. It's really going to be dependent on your situation. May take hours on hold. It's unfortunate, but your loan servicer can process these refunds. You just got to get a hold of them and ask for it. And I'll go through some of the considerations, but it's dependent on your situation. So public service loan forgiveness. This is a program that started in 2007, and it has changed quite a bit over time. But the program allows individuals working in public service to get loan forgiveness, all of your loans forgiven, after 120 qualifying payments. That's 10 years of qualifying payments. And as I mentioned, that payment pause, I think we're at 2.5 years. All of those count toward these 120 payments. And if you work at Adams County, you work in public service. It doesn't matter what your job is. If you work for a local government, that's public service. If you worked for a nonprofit before you came to Adams County to work, that's also public service and can be counted toward this. And I'm going to touch on some of the flexibilities that expire at the end of this month that are going to be really important, especially if you had different employment previously. This program requires that you be in certain repayment plans, that all of your loans are direct loans. Many folks had to consolidate to qualify, but it forgives all of those student loans after 120 qualifying payments. Another cool thing about this that is not true of every forgiveness program, this forgiveness is not taxed. It's not taxable income. So we have the federal government offers teacher forgiveness. That amount that's forgiven is taxed, and they get a tax bill on the amount that was forgiven, not public service loan forgiveness. It's a unique piece of this program. I wanted to touch on consolidation, just that those direct loans are required. So you want to get on your studentaid.gov. You want to see what loans you have. Some folks have 15. You got 3 different ones each semester. It happens. You want to look at those. If they're all direct, that counts. If they're not, then you need to consolidate them. And consolidation is going to depend on your situation too. It could change your monthly payment. It could change your interest. You cannot undo it once you do it. And again, I'll put a lot of links into the chat at the end of this. You want to look at the information pages on consolidation to decide if it's a good fit for you if you don't have all those direct loans. And this is for the public service loan forgiveness. This limited waiver for public service loan forgiveness, I touched on it a little bit. The program has a lot of caveats. It has certain repayment plans, certain loans, on time. You can't be in forbearance. You can't have your payments paused. The only way a payment counts is if you check all of these boxes. But this limited public service loan forgiveness waiver also came out during COVID. It ends at the end of this month. And so if this applies to you, or even if you're wondering if it applies to you, you want to look into this now because it's going to go away at the end of the month. And what the federal government said is, we're going to expand eligibility for these qualifying payments. We know a lot of folks were in the wrong payment plan. They didn't do income-based at the beginning, or they didn't consolidate all their loans, or maybe they made a couple late payments and that derailed their progress in the program. And so the federal government said, we're going to count these payments. We see that you made payments, or we see that you were deployed and paused your payments. We're going to count those. An example for me personally, I took out a small amount of loans for my undergraduate education and then consolidated them after law school. And I substitute taught full time for a year in between college and law school. And when I filled out the paperwork to certify that substitute teaching, even though I had consolidated my loans and taken out much more money for law school, they counted that full year of payments toward my 120 qualifying payments. So that got me another year of payments toward this public service loan forgiveness. For you all, if you were in different plans, if you didn't consolidate your loans, if they're not all direct loans, I talked to someone after our first webinar who had a similar situation to me. They had taken out loans in undergrad and then went to graduate school, hadn't consolidated those loans yet, had more qualifying payments on those undergrad loans because they had worked a bit between going to graduate school, and is getting those payments counted because of this very temporary expansion. If you do not start this process by the end of this month, you do not have access to these flexibilities any longer. So again, I'll put links into the chat. If you even think that you may qualify, if you worked for an employer 5 years ago, anytime after 2007, that is a nonprofit, a local government, and you had loans, you want to get that employment certified. It's fairly easy. Adams County has made it significantly more easy, and I'll show you that in just a bit. But you want to take care of this because it's very temporary. All those normal program requirements are going to come back into place on November 1st. I'll mention a few changes that we expect from the Department of Education, but you want to get this taken care of ASAP. Hold on. You have some time, don't panic. If you haven't submitted your public service loan forgiveness form, and I'll get that link in the chat, MOHELA is the new servicer for public service loan forgiveness. I had Fed loan servicing before they transitioned me over to MOHELA. I was able to create an account with MOHELA even before I got any kind of formal communication, and I was able to submit my public service loan forgiveness form directly to them on the website electronically. If you haven't set up your account, you can fax it or mail it by mail, but certainly super easy to quickly create an account with MOHELA and submit that electronically. The public service loan forgiveness help tool. So I mentioned lots of tools on this studentaid.gov. Pull it up now if you just joined a few minutes ago. Studentaid.gov. If you don't have an account, create it while we're chatting. But you can jump on there and go through their help tool. And what the Department of Education has said is, if you start that form to certify your employment for public service loan forgiveness using that help tool, and you've sent it to your employer, you use the help tool, it fills it out for you automatically. It'll help you track down the county's tax ID number and all the information. That counts. You're in progress. If you're waiting for Adams County to check the box, maybe you're waiting for a previous employer to sign off, that's okay. You just need to start it. And the only way they know you've started it in that way is if you use the tool. So the safest thing to do is studentaid.gov, public service loan forgiveness help tool, begin that tool. And as soon as you fill it out for your employer, you put your dates in, it starts that process and you're good. If you, like me, download the PDF and fill it out, they don't know that you've started it yet. If you download the PDF, fill it out, get Adams County to sign it and submit it, and it takes MOHELA 2 months to process it, that's okay. They know you've started the process because you've submitted that form, and you can do it that way if you feel more comfortable. But as soon as the Department of Education knows you're working on it, it counts. So jump on, use that tool. Even if you're not sure, better safe than sorry, because at the end of the month, this is gone. Any and all employer you've had, if you think it may qualify, get the paperwork in now. Let's see, did I miss anything on this slide? Nope, I think we're good. So this is what the form looks like if you haven't seen it. It's 2 pages. This is the beginning. They want your information and then your employer's information, and your employer verifies the dates that you've been employed. Really basic form, super easy to fill out, especially with that help tool. Income-based student loan debt relief. So this is separate. So if you have questions about public service loan forgiveness, throw them in the chat, reach out anytime. It can be a lot. It's a lot just to click on the links and start. It's a lot of information. That studentaid.gov website is fantastic. They do a great job. All of the information in this presentation came from them. They do a great job. They have a lot of FAQs. We were able to pull up some answers on the last webinar about public service loan forgiveness, like can you do parent plus loans under public service loan forgiveness? Yes. Lots of fantastic information on there. So this income-based student loan debt relief, this was announced by the White House just a few months ago. This is open to anyone. Doesn't matter what payment plan you're in. Doesn't matter if you're doing income-based. Doesn't matter if you've consolidated. This is open to anyone with federal student loans. Oops. Okay, so I have a link to the application for this first one. The White House came out and they said, first of all, what we want to do is we want to offer some forgiveness, lump sum forgiveness of your total student loan balance. And they wanted to focus on lower income individuals. So they set a cap at $125,000 income annually, $250 for married couples. And they said, the Department of Education is going to forgive $10,000 if you have up to $10,000. If it's less, it'll be your whole balance that they'll forgive, but up to $10,000 of federal student loans for anyone making less than $125,000. The application is so simple, no documentation. The federal government has your information on studentaid.gov. And so they know what loans you have. You're going to fill out the application. It's a few fill in the blanks. I'll put that link in the chat in just a minute. This said application will be available 10/20/22. It was just released this past weekend. You want to fill that out before November 15th. That's what the Department of Education is encouraging folks to do, so that when payments come back January 1st, if you're one of the lucky few that has less than $10,000 in student loan debt, I'm very jealous of you. Your whole balance will be forgiven, and you want that forgiveness to come through before payments start again on January 1st. Another interesting piece of information that the Department of Education pushed out on this piece is that if your entire balance is forgiven and you made those voluntary payments during COVID, they'll forgive those too. So if you only owed $8,000 and you paid that $8,000 off during COVID and you fill out this application, they will refund you that $8,000. And for some people, they were making those payments because 0% interest is a huge benefit. Let me pay that down while I'm not paying this astronomical, you saw mine, I think we're all about the same, almost 7% interest. And so lots of people paid it down. You'll get that refunded automatically. The Department of Education said that. Good to request the refund anyway. Definitely fill out this application. The Department of Education also said, we have information, we have income information for about 10 million borrowers. And so they'll automatically get this 10,000 forgiveness, but 40 million, they don't have it for. And there's no way to tell if they have your information or not. So fill out the application. That automatic refund was a huge thing that they just announced. And then I mentioned those Pell Grants. If you received a Pell Grant during your undergraduate career, you are eligible for $20,000 in forgiveness, and it operates the same way. So if you had less than 20, that whole balance is going to be forgiven. If you made voluntary payments, you can get those refunded, but Pell Grant recipients are eligible for $20,000. Want to get that application in before November 15th, and I'll put it in the chat in just a minute. There are a few proposals on the table from the Department of Education. These are things that I am very eager to see. I mentioned all of these resources on studentaid.gov. One of them is a calculator to estimate your payments. And they haven't updated this quite yet because I want to see how this impacts my payments. If you are on an income-driven repayment plan, the calculation of your payment to say, you make this much money, this is how much you need to pay, is 10% of your discretionary income, and your discretionary income is calculated by anything over 125% above the poverty line. And so that's what your payment is. It's 10% of what you make above 125% of the poverty line. And the Department of Education said, we want to change this because we know people are struggling. We know things cost more money, and we want to base it on income. We want to reach the neediest folks. And so they said, we'd like to lower that to 5% of your discretionary income. And we want to raise that threshold to make the payment even lower, to say it's only 5% of what you make above 225% of the poverty line. The current poverty line set by the federal government is about less than the minimum $7 minimum wage, 40 hours a week. So it's very, very low. This will make it the equivalent of a $15 minimum wage. If you make $15 or less, your income-based repayment will be $0. And that will count toward public service loan forgiveness. If you're on an income-based repayment and they've calculated it and said, your income-based repayment is $0, well, your payment every month is $0, and that qualifies. They also said they're looking into, right now, many of the loans are forgiven after 25 years. Regardless of public service, and they're looking at lowering that too. But we're still waiting for a lot of details on those two things. That application for forgiveness is open now, waiting to see, hopefully before the first of the year, how these new calculations will impact those income-driven repayments. So let me take this opportunity to put this link into the chat. I pulled it up. And we also, our People and Cultures team have updated the compensation page to include a link to a public service loan forgiveness page with all of this information, including how to submit your public service loan forgiveness form. But they added this application to the website too. So hold on one second. Forgiveness. The application is very simple. We have quite a few fact sheets. When you go, it's on studentaid.gov. When you get to the page, it will direct you to FAQs if you have more questions. How does this impact you? What does it mean if your loans are completely forgiven? What does it mean if they're not? So just if you have not surfed around on studentaid.gov and you have questions or are curious, check it out. It's just fantastic. So I just put that link to the application into the chat. All of those FAQs are linked within there. You can check out, it says learn more about student loan debt relief, and you can see all the parameters there. It is open to those Parent Plus loans. We had a question last time we did this webinar. My kiddo received a Pell Grant. Am I eligible for $20,000 in forgiveness as the parent? No, you're not. You are eligible for $10,000. You didn't receive a Pell Grant, your kiddo did. Your kiddo is eligible for 20,000, and they should fill out the application too for any loans they took out. And it doesn't matter if you're still in school right now, if you have student loans, a balance, this can count toward those student loans for forgiveness. I didn't update this slide, sorry. You can still sign up for updates from the Department of Education. I did. I got an email that said, preview the application here before it went live. And I was able to see what questions are they gonna ask. So basic, check it out. If you haven't clicked on that link yet, it's really simple information. So they let me know before it was posted, they let me know the second it was posted. And of course, there's these proposed changes that we're still waiting for more information on. So if you sign up, you're going to be the first to get that information. And it was exciting to take a look at that and see, what am I going to have to do to get this forgiveness? I'll say if you're banking on public service loan forgiveness and in your head, you're like, oh, I have $80,000 in student loans. This $10,000 isn't going to do much for me. I'm going to get public service loan forgiveness in 3 years. Do it anyway. Fill it out. Super simple. If you're eligible, make sure you're taking advantage. You want to take any steps that you can. Things change. So even if you have if you're second guessing it, fill the application out. It will not hurt you at all. Let's see. Want to circle back to those refunds just that we talked about. This was a funny post on Reddit here. Someone requested their refund and it came in 63 checks. I'll take it. I'll sit there all day with my online banking and take pictures of checks. But it did come through. Just wanted to walk through a situation just to really simply break down how everybody's situation is different. You can see here the different forgiveness that we talked about. If you get if you had 18,000, you paid 3,000 during the pandemic, you've decided that maybe this debt relief, this 10 or 20,000 is going to forgive it. So that refund makes sense for you. Maybe for me, it was more the public service loan forgiveness with my balance at what it is and the number of years I have and those extra years that were counted. For me, it made sense to not make these payments during COVID, and I did not. I did have friends that made payments, and of course, we were all so nervous. I don't want to not make a payment because I want to qualify for public service loan forgiveness. We all know how the rules have been crazy and people didn't qualify who made payments and then realized, oh, these are going to count. And they got their refunds pretty early. And then you see people who made payments the entire time and got those refunded. It's going to depend. What's your loan balance? What are your personal financial goals? Can you pay it off sooner? Is there a different route you want to take? What are the forgiveness options available to you? What's the timing? What does it mean for you? All kinds of situations. Are you going back to school? And so you really want to think about your specific situation. Do you have to consolidate? What changes will that mean for you? Different interest rate. So take your time in thinking it through, but just wanting to highlight that you can get those refunds. And if it's a good fit for you, reach out to your loan servicer. October 31st is when the flexibility for public service loan forgiveness ends. You want to certify any and all employment that you think could possibly qualify to get those payments counted with those flexibilities in place. For your debt forgiveness, that's the 10 or 20,000, you want to get that application in by November 15th so that that forgiveness is counted when payments start in January. January 1st, if your entire balance is not erased, you will begin paying again. Your interest will come back. Remember that you'll get notifications. The Department of Education and your loan servicer will let you know before these payments resume. I'm hoping it comes with some different information on how those income-based repayments will be reduced. Time will tell. We did get the application for 10 and 20 forgiveness in October when that was promised, so that's hopeful. But those payments will come back in January, hopefully with some decreases in those income-based repayments. And then December 31st of next year, so you have a whole year to apply. Don't wait. Do it today. It's 6 questions. Do it right now while we're chatting. Fill out that application, get it in ASAP. Millions of people will be applying, so you just want to get it done as soon as possible, but you will have until the end of next year. Federal student aid, I can't say this enough times. If you do not have a studentaid.gov account, get on there, create it, super simple. All the information you need about your situation, your student loans federally are going to be on that page, linked to tons of resources that help you make decisions based on your situation. If your kiddo has not signed up for an account on studentaid.gov, tell them to sign up for an account. Help them do it. It's going to help them walk through all the different situations, all the opportunities available. If you need to get a hold of studentaid.gov, lots of different ways to do that. They're on YouTube where they're updating, walking through things like the application. They're on Twitter, Instagram, find them on LinkedIn. If you're having a hard time getting through, send a message to all of them. And you can see the 800 number down here in the left corner. This is recorded and will be posted, and we'll follow, and I'm going to put a lot of these links into the chat too. I mentioned PNC, just a huge shout out. They have been fantastic through this whole process. I reached out to them and was like, you know, I want to provide some information on this. I'm reading all this information for myself. Who can I talk to? Who can I tell about this? And they were super supportive. Jesse Cutting and Wellness hosting this on the financial wellness front. So PNC created an email address specifically to send those public service loan forgiveness forms. So you can see here, PSLF requests at adcogov.org. They'll verify your employment, they'll sign that form, and they'll get it back to you to submit online. Remember, even if you don't have a Mohila account now, you can create an account with Mohila. Your loan servicer, if you have a different one, will have a way to upload this electronically. If push comes to shove, you can fax it. There are some apps that let you fax from your phone. I couldn't figure those out. Or you can mail it, snail mail. Your best bet is to submit it online. If you have any trouble finding that, let me know. And then I mentioned this at the beginning, but PNC created this public service loan forgiveness page under compensation. You can see here, if you get on My Adams, you get to PNC compensation. Right here on the left side, they have a whole page, and you can see the email. I couldn't get a screen grab of the whole page, but they also have all of these helpful links to all of the information that we just went through. They all go to studentaid.gov, so jump on there now. Mentioned Jesse Cutting and our financial wellness program, lots of resources out there. If you have questions about anything here, you want to reach out to Jesse Cutting. Lots of opportunities just to make sure that we're healthy in all aspects of our lives. I know I'm not alone in finances being overwhelming and confusing and complicated, with student loans being just one of those things. So if you're interested in any of these opportunities here, reach out to Jesse. There's information on all of these on My Adams, so check out there too. And that's it. So this is my contact information. This is my cell phone number at the bottom. You can shoot me a text. You can send me an email. I had some great folks reach out after the last webinar that we did with fantastic questions that we were able to get answered right from the different resources online. And so don't hesitate, just happy to chat through anything that's happening on your end and give some direction, mostly links, lots of information online. So I'll pause there. I'll leave this screen up. I'm going to put a bunch of links into the chat. Feel free to unmute, throw a question into the chat. What's going on? Was this helpful? Did I not touch on anything? Any information? Greg, thank you. Thanks so much for that. Glad you were able to jump on. Any questions coming up for folks? What was the public service loan forgiveness email again? I'm gonna click, sorry, my dog's barking in the background. Can't believe he held off this whole time. There we go. Public service loan PSLF requests at adcogov.org. I'm gonna shut my door. I'm going to pull up actually just because I pulled it up before this webinar, I'm going to stop sharing this screen. I'm just going to show you the new page on the compensation website because it has all of these helpful links that I'm going to throw into the chat. So I pulled this up just before I jumped on. This is the new page. You can see the email address here, our folks in human resources that are happy to help. My contact information here. This is my office number. Feel free to reach out there. And then helpful links here. So they stuck it in a PDF, and we just worked to really put a link to every one of those slides. So I'm actually going to download this and put this into the chat. So I'm going to stick this document into the chat, and you can see all of these links. They're tied to each of those pages that I just went through. So that's in the chat now. You should be able to open it pretty easily. Let's see, got a question here. My wife worked for a nonprofit for 6 years and then was laid off during COVID. She found other work in non-government or nonprofit. Does my government service count toward any of the repayment plan during her time of unemployment or any other time of my service? So likely not. There was a period of time where spouses could combine their student loans, and it actually was one of those situations that did not count toward public service loan forgiveness. Her loans are her loans, unless you've combined them and then you want to seek out information on your situation specifically. But her loans are her loans and yours are your loans. And it's a good opportunity, unfortunately, to flag that if you were not employed at a nonprofit during that COVID pause, those payments do not count. They only count, even if you made $0 payments, they only count if you were employed at a qualifying employer. I'd still say certify the employment that happened during the 6 years, certify the new employment right away now, but during that gap, it's not going to count. Not seeing any other questions in the chat. But you all have my contact information. You have the page on PNC. You have this document with all the relevant links. Jump on studentaid.gov right now, fill out that application, take a look at all of those FAQs, and reach out if you have questions. There's a lot of different specific situations and tons of information that's been coming out, and so it can be confusing, and I'm just happy to direct you to the right link. The information is there. It's just a matter of finding it and chatting through your specific situation. All right, I'm going to stop there. Don't hesitate to reach out. I'll hang out here just in the chat for another minute or two, but you all are free to go. Thank you so much for jumping on this. I will be on the lookout for other opportunities to touch base with folks and provide helpful information, especially with this stuff that's so complicated. And as we learn more about student loans, hopefully I'll be able to come back and touch base with you all. Thanks so much.
Hey, Melissa.
Hey, what's up?
Okay, so I was the one that asked the question about my wife on the 6-month deal or 6-year deal.
Yeah.